Wildlife photography is more than just snapping a shot. It's about emotions, connections, and impact. I approach wildlife just the way I do with a fashion model. Every animal has a personality present. Today, I'm going to show you how to capture that. In 5 different steps, I am going to go over the best of fashion that I bring into wildlife and how I think of a animal as a model to bring out the emotions, the lighting, the XYZ. For the people that are new to this channel, I am a fashion photographer, have been for over 100 years. I don't photograph wildlife like wildlife. I photograph wildlife like my fashion models. So point number 1 is going to be seeing wildlife as models. Number 2 is going to be finding the right light. Now, when I say right light, even though I'm shooting wildlife, I'm thinking fashion, how I would light a model. Let's light the animals exactly the same way. Point number 3, composition rules and how I break them. Number 4, it is so important. It's all about movement and energy. Without that, the photograph just doesn't mean anything. People love good energy. Even if you have the first 4 steps right, and if you don't get the 5th one, which is the emotional connection, your photograph will mean 0, at least in fashion, and I believe it's the same exact thing in wildlife. So point number 1 is seeing wildlife as models. There's a slight bit of a difference here. In my fashion shoots, we sit down together, we talk about it. Of course, the designer is present there, or the magazine. We talk mostly about emotions and connection and telling a story. And in wildlife, it's exactly the same. The only difference is there are 2 people that are missing: the model, which is the animal, but they don't talk. They don't want to come to you and sit down and have a meeting and say, okay, I'm going to do this, and that. The way we discuss things in fashion is we say, hey, I'm going to move this leg here and I'm going to give you this kind of an emotion. I'm going to give you this look because I want the audience, mind you, in fashion, to feel this, and this. In wildlife, how do you make that happen? By studying your animal's behavior, the poses, the leg movements. That is just the beginning of fashion movements. What they're doing, at what moment they're going to do it. All of that matters. Then comes the lighting, of course. First, let's create the mood with the positioning of the body. In fashion, let's create the mood with animals as well. Watch the legs of animals. They move very differently. You got to keep that in mind because that makes a huge difference. Like if you look at a model who's standing straight with the legs just this way, doesn't look that good. But if the model crosses her legs, faces you and standing with her legs crossed, the lines makes it so much better. Now that is what you want to bring into your wildlife, the lines. That will make your photographs so much different once you start paying attention to the lines. Like if you look at this image, look at the lines of this. This is not, I'm not thinking wildlife, I'm thinking beauty. Now look at this one. I am not thinking wildlife. I am thinking how can the lines make it impactful. I'm thinking lines because in fashion, lines are so important. And now you're going to turn around and say to me, Ejaz, what's a line? If you take a square and you just cut it in the middle, it's just cut in the middle. Now you take a square and you draw a line to it and cut it diagonally. Look how elegant that looks. And now that is the difference between fashion and anything else. The lines is what makes fashion fashion. Even when the designers are designing the clothes, they talk about lines. So let's make the collar this way so it matches the line of the pocket, so to speak. Those lines are so important. See your wildlife as models. See how and what happens to the legs. See when they lift up the tail, are the lines of the mane looking good? Viewing your wildlife as a fashion model, super important. Point number 5 is the most important point in this video. It's about emotional connection to your photograph. Please go through all these 4 points, and on the fifth one, pay attention to the emotional connection, because that is the key to success for your photography. All right, so guys, point number 2 is light. Now, of course, everybody's gonna say, okay, that's a prerequisite. Yeah, it is. But how does light affect emotion? In fashion, we speak about light and we say, I want the photograph to look crisp. So we are going to use less feathering and less dampening of the light, right? So it's not so soft. Same thing in wildlife. If you want your horse to look powerful, sharp, elegant, then you are not going to have a super soft light on him, because he's going to look sweet and gullible. I mean, that's the language I speak in fashion and lighting. When I'm telling my assistants, hey guys, we need to make the fashion model look sharp, powerful. So let's reduce the softness. And that is the same concept in wildlife. When I want my animal to look powerful, I'm going to choose a time that brings in the quality of light that is not soft but sharp. There is no term for it, but it's how you visualize. But you need to have that light to be a little bit harsher, I should say. But if you want your animal, or say you're photographing a puppy dog and you want him to look sweet and cuddly and soft and mushy, then use as much soft light as possible. Shoot it early in the morning or shoot it late at night. And not only will you get the orange tones and glow and so on, you will also make them look mushy. You'll also make them look sweeter. If your subject is a little harsh looking, then you throw in soft light, then you're making him less harsh. Now, who wants a harsh looking animal in their living room? I don't think many do. So even if you're shooting a tiger and if the light is not so soft, you can bring out the characters. But if the light becomes super soft, then you're putting them into a different category. They're not as harsh of an animal as at least I would like to portray. Right? So light is important. Where the light falls is important. Like in this scenario, the light's coming from here. This side is shadowy. Now, I do like that even in wildlife and even especially in fashion. And in wildlife, since I don't have my assistants putting lights all over the place, I try to find that. So say this would be the sun, and then I'm getting the wraparound because there's a white board over here in the front, and that's throwing light back at me. So this way I can get this not so harsh. Now, all these things you got to keep in mind when you're doing wildlife photography. The mood of the light means so much. If we were together on set, I would say to you, just move 20% and see where the sun is coming. And then you start to get those shadows and you use those shadows to create a mood. Choose the light. Know that at 9 o'clock, the light is going to make my animal look sharper. At 6 o'clock in the morning, my animal is going to look mushier and sweeter. Make lighting be the mood enhancer for your wildlife photography. After I'm done with all these 5 points, I'm going to give you guys a really great tip on making your audience continue to look at your photograph and how they can stay there for a longer time. That's what I've been doing from the past, God knows how many years, 100 maybe. But I'll give that tip to you guys in capturing the moment by the end of this video. All right, guys, so point number 3, composition. Models don't always stand in the middle of my frame. They don't. Sometimes they're to the right, sometimes they're to the left. I use the rule of thirds. I break the rule of thirds. So since the models don't always stand in place, neither should the wildlife. Rule of thirds, it's a great starting point. It's just start with the rule of thirds and then go break it and see what makes your image looks better. There are certain things that you will start to understand is when you take the face of the subject and put it all the way to the end of the frame, people are going to start feeling uncomfortable. The direction of the face should always have room in front of it. Now that's also composition. I would never do that with a model because it just makes people uncomfortable. So that's the rule I bring in here as well. Now, close ups make the photograph very intense. That's another mood that you're creating, right? Composition is basically creating mood. And so, let's not forget about the big thing that I do in fashion, that is negative space. So powerful. If you use negative space in wildlife photography, I think it is just going to enhance your photograph. And then point number 4 is creating movement. So in fashion, of course, the model is gonna, hey, I'm gonna jump, Ejaz. Hey, I'm gonna do this. And hey, Ejaz, do you think I should do this? So, we'll discuss what to do and what not to do. Great. Movement, movement, movement. The leg movement, even the slightest leg movement. Like I'm gonna have them do half a step back, half a step back, half a step back. That movement on its own, it's a lot as a photographer and as a photograph. I don't make the models run 5 miles, but we cannot do that in wildlife. I cannot make the animal go back and forth. So know where your animal is coming from, so you can pan with the animal. Creating movement with maybe slower shutter speed. I'm not speaking about blur. I love doing blurs. If in your mind you can create a sharp image at 1000 of a second, slow it down to 800 or 600 without it getting blurry, but give that extra movement. That makes a difference. So even if the animal is just standing still, you are not, you're shaking a little bit. Even if you're on the tripod, there's a little bit of a shake. And between your shake and the animal shake, it creates mystery. It creates movement. It makes the image alive. Do you want to watch a video that is super crispy and jittery? I don't think so. Why would you want to watch a photograph that is super crispy and jittery? At least that's my belief system. All my photographs have blurriness to it. So sometimes I say my bald eagle is flying and I think I can stop and freeze everything at maybe 2000 of a second. I'll drop it down and I'll bring it down 1600 of a second. If my model is doing that 1 step front, 1 step back, and I can capture her at 1/25th of a second, super sharp, I'm going to drop it down to 80th of a second. It's not blurry. That's like creation of movement in your photograph. That little bit blurriness, little bit. I'm not speaking about the eyes. I'm not speaking about places that matter, but the rest of the body. That helps create a mood. And that's what I do in fashion. And that's what I do in wildlife as well. You can create movement even with a still subject in wildlife because you are moving and so does the subject move just that tad bit. So keep that in mind. Alright guys, so now let's go to the main point of this video. Without an emotional connection, you don't have an image, you have a photo. In fashion, the way I create emotional connection is I become the best friend of my model. Or if I'm doing a film, then I become the best friend of my actors. I don't know how to become a best friend of an animal, but I like to present myself to the animal. There's no camouflage for me. A lion sees me and wants to come at me, I'm going to fire away a few photographs before it can get me because that will be awesome, right? Because the emotion in the eyes of that predator would be great to capture. I can speak to my models or my actress and they will give me the emotion. As far as wildlife is concerned, you cannot ask them to give emotion, but you can certainly present yourself for them to get a reaction to it. I'm not saying go into their space and go crazy. I'm just saying let them see you. There's no need to wear camouflage. Let them see. And by the way, they can smell you in any case, right? So whether you try to be smart and wear a camouflage, I don't get that. I don't get why photographers do that. But besides the point is why not get a reaction from them? Why not let them turn and look at, hey, who the hell is this? I was in North Dakota photographing bulls, and this bull just would not move. The bull would be just standing right there. Meanwhile, the bull handler kept going to the bull and trying to move him for me, and the bull wouldn't do that. So what did I do? I jumped out and I went towards the bull, and the bull gave me a reaction, and I got this. Had I not done that, I would have never got that. That emotional connection would not be there. Now, even when I was behind the fence, The bull knew I was doing something totally different. Look, it's their environment. They know better than we do. And this bull saw that he is something new and he has something new in his hands. So the bull kept on running in circles, coming back and sniffing at me really hard. Like, that was powerful. Those are the reactions I was looking for. That is the emotion that I was looking for. Same thing with the Arctic wolf. I was up in the North Pole and the wolves started to come at me. There were 8 of them. I had my tracker with me, of course. I felt safe, but I stood my ground and they were literally 6 feet away from me and they were curious. And that is what I wanted to capture, them being curious about who the hell is this guy. That, I say, is emotional connection, and that is what you guys need to do. You're trying to make a friend, you're trying to make an enemy, you're trying to make the emotions count, and you cannot hide and create emotions. You got to be upfront, and that to me is the success of my images, the emotional connection that you get. That is what my clients look for in my photographs. The tip that I was going to give you guys at the end of this video is capture your subject not in the beginning of the action and not at the end of the action. Capture your subject in the middle of the action. And what do I mean by that? If I am going to look from here to there, don't photograph me here or don't photograph me starting here. And if I'm looking here and this is my end point, don't photograph me here. Get me going this way. So what happens in real life is that you have started and stopped. As humans, we don't care about the starting and the stopping. We care about the journey. If you take your photographs in the middle of the action, that is what your audience will continue watching because they are subconsciously looking for your subject to finish that action, and that's why it's a prolonged, they're waiting. And if your images are looking so real, they're just waiting. Get them in the middle of the action. Anyway guys, so that is it for this video. Fashion and wildlife comparison, or how I bring the fashion elements into wildlife. I will speak to you guys soon. Thank you.